Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Unmet Amana. This is Sofiya, your host, and today I am here with my cousin Umi. We're doing kind of like a long-awaited video where we're discussing when life doesn't go according to your plans and like disappointments that come with that.
Yeah, thanks, Sophia, for having me. This is I feel like, a very important conversation that we don't really talk about a lot. So I'm glad, like, you're bringing that to the table. It's not easy to talk about because there's a lot of personal, stories, and people feel different type of way. But like you said, we really hope people get out of this that it's okay, that if things don't go according to what society expects you to do at a certain age or a certain time, that you move life based on what Allah has written for you, and based on you know um, just what you personally, I feel, um, want to do. Move according to your timeline.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, so this video idea came a couple of months ago when you sent me the post of Tracy Ellis Ross, and she was coming out with like a documentary where she talks about solo traveling, and I think she's in her 50s now. I'm not sure, but or 40s.
I'm not sure actually, but she talks a lot about what we expect things to look like, and a lot about like life in your 30s and things like that. I actually don't know who she is, but she just popped in my feed, and that really just resonated with me, because I think a lot of times, like, we move through life thinking, oh, okay, this didn't go according to my plan, so then I'm just gonna like just move on and do it. But we never really sit back and reflect, like, sometimes the post was about like grieving the life you wish you had, right? The life you didn't have. And it just made me realize, like, it's okay to um, feel sad, or I wouldn't say disappointed, but like, it's okay to feel sad for not having or being where you thought you were going to be, while at the same time being happy and enjoying what life that you're living right now. So it was the first time I actually saw something like that. Because a lot of times people will just be like, yeah, it's fine if you're in your 30s, late 30s, and, live life, enjoy, da da da. But like, nobody really talks about, well, I wish I had this, or I wish I had that. And, can I be okay with feeling that way? And I don't think we've been, we've always grown up to like be on either side of the extreme of like, you're either sad about how things didn't turn out, or you're just happy and you don't care about how things didn't turn out. And this kind of brought it together, where it's like, it's okay to be sad about something, but at the same time being grateful, for what you do have, and enjoying that. So that's
Like
why.
navigating like the nuances and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember when I used to do Shahir Sheka, and we recorded the episode of like non-married women in their 30s, and I think I was 25 at the time. This was pre-COVID, and I guess I never imagined myself like in my 30s, because I always knew I didn't want to be married in my 20s, So now that I'm in my 30s, this is something I started thinking about, like marriage and children, because you can get married whenever you want, but having children, it has an age, Like there's an age limit. You can't just have children whenever you want. If Allah decides to give kids to you, you can have kids, but like when you think biologically, there is a certain like time that most people are able to have kids, So
And I think that's a fear that that has been instilled in us. Yes, maybe there is some science behind, the biology and stuff like that. But what you find is that a lot of women rush into things and do things out of fear of biology, their clock ticking, and things like that, that they end up regretting, or they end up, getting married, and then they have kids, and now they're single mothers because they rushed into something that wasn't meant for them, or maybe that is their test. But yeah, that's the real fear that
Mm-hmm.
people have. Everyone has. I have. But at the end of the day, I would rather live with that fear than be in a relationship or in a marriage where I'm unhappy, and now I bring a child to that, and now the child is unhappy. So for me, I feel like for me personally, I feel like it's a selfish reason to get married, because if Allah has written for you to have a child, you will have it no matter what age you are. And that's what keeps me going, is
Mm-hmm.
the fact that, if this is my test and I have a child at this time, then I know that if I'm meant to have it, it will happen eventually. And so for me, that's my anchor. That is what keeps me going. And when these things come at you where you're like, oh, but we still hear it, but for me, it's like that is not a reason for me to get married, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest.
I was talking to my grandma last December, and also someone else. She's older than me. She's in her 40s, and they always say to me like you can end up. I don't know if this is bad advice. I don't know if it's good advice, but they always say to me, "Yeah, you can end up like you can end up divorced, but as long as you have kids, that's all that matters because it's like what's life without having kids, you know?" And I've been asking myself, I wouldn't get married just to have kids, but I've been asking myself, like, do they have a point? Or if, like, say you had kids at a young age, right? You got married, you got divorced, and you have your kids. Is that the worst thing in the world?
No, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. But what I'm saying is, like, I don't want to rush into something just for that reason. If it happens, it happens. It happens to
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, and that is their fate. If you want to, but I hope that the reason they get married isn't just for the kids, and that they want a companionship and they want a lifelong partner,
Mm-hmm.
someone when the kids grow up and leave that they can be with. I hope that's their intention for getting married. But I also know, like, at our moms and our parents' time, maybe that was one of the reasons, they wanted to. But that was a different time. We're living
Mm-hmm.
in a different time. I don't know if we were living back home, our lives might be different than where we are right now. So we kind of have to, like, just take into account. Like, I don't discredit that. I see their point. I see there's their validity for saying that, because even if you do end up getting divorced, you still have your kids, and there's a lot of uh, how do you say, like, that comes with its own joy, and that it's having someone who cares about you. That's one of the things. When you have kids, they're always, hopefully always, going to be there for you. But I also know that um, your kids might not always turn out the way you want them to.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to put all my eggs in the basket of, like, at least if I have kids, I'll be okay. Well, you don't know how those kids are going to turn out. They might abandon you too. Like, how do you know that?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's just this what do you call it? Uh, catch 22 kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you pictured your 30s, when you were in your 20s, what did you imagine your life would look like?
Like I told you, I feel like that is so long ago. Like, when I was in my 20s, I had a lot of dreams and a lot of visions. Like, even when we're in high school, when people ask you what do you want to be when you grow up, you envision your life to be. When I look back, honestly, I felt like I had the dream that everyone else had for me, like my parents had for me, which was just, go through school, finish school, get a degree, become, have a career, get married, have kids. That was my dream. Like, I'm going to just go, you know, I wanted to be a nurse. And I wanted to move up from there. And I was in that trajectory, right? Like everything I did was working towards that dream and vision. And then I hit 24, 25, and life took a different turn from that point. And with my career, actually, that was, I feel like, the first major pivot that I made that I never thought I was going to make, because my whole life, like I said, ever since I could remember, I knew I wanted to be in the medical field. I like helping people, and that's just, everyone else expected you to do that. And so when I changed my major when I was in a university, and I dropped out of nursing school, and that was kind of like a major decision that I didn't really know where it was going to lead me, because it was not in the plan at all. So, and then at that point, I wasn't, obviously I wasn't married or anything. And so when I changed that, I told my parents. I was really nervous about telling them that I didn't want to do this anymore. And, I wanted to pursue something else that I, at that time, was starting to feel passionate about. And yeah, so that was, the first major pivot that I made. But even at the same time, I was still trying to satisfy what everyone else expected of me. So I wanted to continue pursuing that dream of, like, I finished school, get a degree, and then, find a job, and then eventually get married and settle down and have kids. I still had those dreams like into my late 20s and then 30s, and then it wasn't happening, and then it was like, okay, this is not happening. I didn't know how to pivot, actually, for a bit. And so I just threw myself in my career, in my volunteer work, doing that kind of stuff, so I didn't have to think about it. So yeah, life, that's how I pictured my life to be in my 20s, like where I was going to be in my 30s. And it didn't turn out the way that I expected. And now I have to, like, being in my mid, like late 30s, I just feel like I eventually came out of that state of feeling like I had to be at a certain point in my life at a certain time in my life.
If you were to go back, would you complete your nursing degree?
No, no, actually, that's the one thing I don't regret, actually, because looking back, the career that I chose, I love, and as you know, like that took me to starting my own organization, which I never thought of. I didn't see myself as a businesswoman at all. Like, when I started working, I just thought I'm just going to move up the chain in this and eventually retire. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the, things in my 20s I never really pictured for myself. I'm living a life I never pictured for myself in my 20s, basically. So no, that's never, like, I never regretted that decision.
Earlier, you were saying something that you wanted to bring up something about vision boards and having like 5-year goals and stuff, and that you're against that now.
Yeah. So when I was in my, like, mid 20s, late 20s, I got introduced to what a visionaire, which was a program that Sheikh Muhammad Al Sharif, may Allah have mercy on him, started, and that was actually a life changing program for me. And so it basically just talks about how to design your life and up your game through dua. Mm-hmm. And so that led me to kind of do vision boards every year, have 5-year plans and 10-year goals, and a lot of those, alhamdulillah, has become true. A lot of those du'as and a lot of those plans through du'as have become true. But this past year is just, and I was also a big journaler. Like, I like journaling a lot. And so I used to journal all the time, like on a daily basis. And I don't do that like as much anymore. And I feel like that is just one of these changes that came about this year, where it's like, your life, you can have a plan. I think you should have a plan, but you know how vision boards, it's like it's specific. You have a picture of how you want something to look like, and then you're looking for that picture, right? And so I just recently, the past couple of years, I would just say, I have just come to the realization or the exception, like the accepting of like things not always turning out the way you plan. And if I have this image that I need to get to and it doesn't happen, I'm disappointed. You know, I'm sad about it, and it takes me a long time to recover from it. And so I guess for me, I'm just moving away from that because it's not an indication like that. I still can't have a plan. I just don't want to do that image of like, I want to get somewhere, but I want to be surprised at how I get there. And so this year I've kind of just been into expecting the unexpected and embracing that.
Yeah.
And that has really brought me a lot of joy in like the surprises. I didn't used to like surprises, but now I'm just like, nothing is going according to the way I had envisioned, and it can be like the smallest things, and I'm just like, just surprise me. I want to know how. I want this, but I don't want to like, I don't know how it's going to happen, and I look forward to like just being surprised by that.
Yes.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
I'm smiling because this is literally like 180 from last year.
It wasn't it. We were making, but you know, I did make a vision board last year, but I didn't really like focus too much on it. I just, because I just felt like, okay, you move it down. This is the vision board from the previous year. Now we're moving it down to this. Whatever didn't happen, we're moving it down to the next year's vision board. And if it doesn't happen, you know, like that. And when you look at that, you kind of feel like, oh, why didn't this happen? And it kind of weighs, at least for me, it kind of like weighted me down. But it is possible like something did happen related to that, you know, vision, and we don't recognize it because it doesn't look like the way we envisioned it to look like. So that's why, for me, I'm moving away from like, and it doesn't mean like I was listening to a podcast and it was just like, to be productive, you don't need to be writing everything down. You need to just have the big picture and then work towards that, however way it comes about, you know. So we'll see. We're testing it out.
Last year, when we were going to Umrah, well, I was going to Umrah, and then you called me like a week before. We were doing a Zoom call of like how to write my du'as out and to write different du'as for like different categories. So like career, personal, relationship, fun, and stuff like that. And then when I came back from Umrah, I did the visionary program. So now on my phone wallpaper, it's all of my dream du'as and my goals and stuff, so because I want to remember it. And one thing I learned from that class is the du'as you make, they may not come true in this world, but they're also a conversation with God and a way for you to improve your relationship with Him. And if you don't get what you want in this world, like say you're praying for a kid, you may not have got it, but you're going to see the reward of making that du'a in the next life. And then this week I did the 4-day challenge with Visionaire, and they were saying you might have a goal of learning Arabic, and it may be 10 years. Maybe you just need to drop that goal. Maybe it's not for you, or like being married. Maybe that's something you want, but maybe it's not something that's written for you. So how about you do other things?
I've heard that before where it's like, well, if something is not happening, just give up on it. But you also have to look at and say, okay, how bad do I really want it? You know, like even, and Visionary tells you like, maybe you need to rephrase your wording, right?
Yeah.
So if you're like, no, I really want this, even if it's been 10 years, then if that's fine. It doesn't tell you to stop doing it, really. It's just maybe like rewording it in a way that gives you back that excitement about it and makes your dua strong. And I'm a big, I definitely big believer in that. You know, if you don't get your dua answered in this world, that it will be answer and you will get the reward for it. And another, that keeps me going. That is also a reason why I don't give up on asking for some things that I want, even if I don't get it, because I know that we need that reward. Like, we need that extra reward. And then the end of the day, this world is so temporary. We think like this world is so, infinite, and we're going to be, no, it's so temporary. And the akhirah is going to be eternal. So I rather see the reward in the hereafter, even if it hurts to not have it now. Like in this world, I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, it hurts sometimes to not have the things that you want in this world right now for you to enjoy. But then again, like that conversation with Allah, like you were saying, like Visionary teaches you how to just have that conversation with Allah through your du'as. So then no matter what, like that is what gives you comfort, and that's what keeps you going,
Do you feel pressure from your family, culture, or society about where you should be at this age?
So I think when you say pressure, for me, the pressure I think you're talking about is marriage, right? Because alhamdulillah, like my career and where my life is right now, I'm fortunate to be doing something that I love and, being comfortable with that. But with the marriage thing, I'm also grateful that my parents specifically, they've never really pressured us with that. Like I hear a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of girls getting that pressure from their parents, and some of them that pushes them to get married and just to get out of the house. So I've never really felt that pressure from my parents and even my immediate family, like my siblings and stuff. But society definitely, you will like literally see people that you haven't seen for years, and the first questions they ask you is like, oh, are you married yet? And it's like, really? Like, can you ask me like how I am? How is life? So yeah, society, I feel like always pressure you. But for me, the people that are close to me, the people that I see every day are what's important. And so for them, like, yes, they do want me to believe me, like, and they do like they do want that. And I hear like, sometimes like, we want to see your children too, and I'm like, you have so many grandkids, like why, but for me, I feel like for me personally, I'm fortunate in that, I do have a lot of nieces and nephews. So even with the kids thing, I have them. I know it's not the same, but I feel like that has really helped me not feel the pressure to get married just to have kids, because I have so many of my nieces that I've seen grown up and I can be with anytime I want. So that has helped me. But I know the pressure is real, and a lot of our society is still pressuring girls with this. Mostly girls, I feel like. Do you think mostly girls get pressured?
Yes. I don't think guys get. I think guys do have some pressure, but not as much. Because I feel like when I see the guys and my brothers or something, they want to be married as much as we do. We might not get pressured, but it's still something that's in everyone's mind, like the back of their mind.
Because people feel like they can get married anytime, but for the girls, their time is limited.
I think society says that, but I don't think it's actually real. I don't think guys can just get married at any time just because they could have kids. Because there's a male loneliness epidemic that's going on, and
Speak on that a little bit more. What is that?
There's a lot of single men or like men who may have been married, they had children, but because of their actions, their kids are not, or their family's not around them when they get older. So they spent a lot of old age by themselves. Even like the woman, she may be divorced, she may have kids, but at the end of her life, she's always surrounded with people, whether it's other women, whether it's her kids. But men have it worse than us. So they can act like, oh, we can get married whenever. If that's true, then why are you guys struggling with this thing, you know?
No, that's a good perspective. I haven't heard that before.
I see it a lot, like on TikTok and Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not on TikTok. But yeah, that's a pretty interesting view. I've not heard of
A
that, but that's a
woman can
really good
be
point
unmarried and not have kids,
because
but
she
she'll still be
builds
surrounded by
community.
people
Yeah,
because we build community naturally,
yeah.
whereas men, they don't do that.
That makes sense. And that's how I feel like when I see older women that have never been married or have kids, they're
Hmm.
always like with some family member. Yeah, like, yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen that. That's true. I guess that keeps us going.
And that's what keeps me going because like I have older relatives who are not married, or have
Mhm.
children, So when those thoughts come in my head, I'm like, they're okay. So if they're okay, I can be okay too, and it's not going to
Yeah.
be the end of the world. And I can also still desire marriage and having children.
That's true, and I also feel like we right now have a lot more resources than our other elder aunts that we used to see growing up. Right, like they had less resources than us, but we have a lot more resources, and so the likelihood of us being able to take care of ourselves long term, that's also very, positive for us. And like you said, we're social creatures, so we will have community regardless.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What emotions come up when you think about unmet expectations?
um Unmet expectations. So right now I feel like I'm learning to not get so disappointed in things not turning the way it was. But I will share, like, recently I was just thinking about something that I wanted and I really wanted, like, but I don't have that control. That's another thing, like that control, letting go of control. But I was really sad about it. And I was really sad and I was making dua, like, that Allah make this possible soon. And just going through my emotions, like if I'm sad, if I want to cry about it, all that stuff. And I just let myself feel that emotion. But yeah, a lot of times we have, for example, like I would say, like even having kids, even though I do have, a lot of nieces and nephews that I'm around all the time, you do want, like you do want your own kids that when you come home that run to you, like that cry when you leave
Hmm.
or that ask about you. And so those kind of things, like sometimes you do want that and you do feel that, oh, yeah, you have those sad moments. I'm not gonna like say, don't have those sad moments, but for me, the past few years, I've learned to sit with my emotions and to feel it and to go through it, because um, if I just suppress it, it's going to come out even worse, down the road. So I feel sadness. Sometimes I cry, and that's a really good relief,
Hmm.
And it can be about anything else too, Sometimes, like as like you have your own business, right? So you're wanting something, to go well for this project or for this grant, and you're like just really praying about it, and you don't get it, and you feel sad, even though you're like, I know if I don't get it, alhamdulillah, it's khair. But you still feel sad. You still feel like, oh, I wish I had it. But you still move on. So I don't fight with my emotions, and so I'm okay, like feeling how I need to feel
Hmm.
if the moment arises. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like you reached the level of surrender and having tawakkul.
Surrender, yes. That is a really like that has really surrender and submit has been something that I heard, how I used to go to these retreats in Minnesota. And so one of the retreats, someone was asking a question, and they're like, I'm in my 40s and this hasn't happened for me. And, I feel like this is never going to happen for me. What do I do and stuff like that. And that is exactly what the Sheikha told her. And she said, sometimes we just have to submit to the will of Allah. And that was like really resonated with me, because we worry and stress so much about, what didn't happen and what I wish I could have. And it really gives you anxiety. Yeah.
Hmm.
It puts you in this, it makes you depressed. It gives you a lot of anxiety. And so But once, because you feel like you're in control and you're the one that needs to make this thing happen, right? And if it doesn't happen, you're disappointed in yourself. But it's like the end of the day, it's Allah who gives and takes. And if Allah has not given you this for whatever reason, then we need to just submit to that will. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's something we just have to remind ourselves every time. But that is exactly what what I have learned, and what I'm working to do is just that submission to the will of Allah and surrendering to whatever comes my way, and just moving through that. Because you want to show up as, when people say show up as your best self, it takes a lot of work to show up as your best self. But if you are coming in with so much suppressed emotion, you are not showing up as your best self. Mm-hmm. So to show up as your best self, you need to be able to work through these emotions, so that you can show up with that.
That's something I'm navigating right now in real time. It's like, 2024, that's when I got fired from my job. Mm-hmm. And then it just, I don't know, that just shook my ego mm-hmm. more than anything, because ever since I graduated college, I always had two sources of income, and I could just make money whenever I wanted. So then I feel like that, like, other areas of my life were great because of that, like, financial, not being restricted like that, So now that I don't have that, it's like with, like, who I thought of myself as a person, and like relationships and fun and stuff like that. And I don't want money to be attached to like who I am and how I perceive myself. But for me right now, they're kind of connected. But I don't want it to be connected.
Yeah, I mean, those are real. That's an okay feeling. That's a very valid feeling. Like when you lose something that is part of your, it's kind of your safety net too. That's what keeps you stable. So when you lose something like that, something that keeps you stable, and that's kind of, it does shake you, and that's fine. That's normal. And I think it's okay to have that, to go through that process. You mm-hmm. have to work through that, and you eventually will work through that. But that's normal, and I think that's something we a lot of times try to fight off, is like, oh, this is not normal, I shouldn't be feeling this way. Maybe that's what you need to go through right now to be better later, mm-hmm. So it's just figuring out how to reconcile the two. You're saying you don't want those two things to be connected, but maybe you do need to just learn how to reconcile those two things, because it is a real thing. I mean, it's one of those, I didn't expect my life, like, I didn't expect things to turn out this way at this time in my life, mm-hmm. because you're not in your 20s anymore. So it's like, I should be settled, I should be sad, like, I shouldn't be struggling with these things. But believe me, it can happen. Life can take a turn at any time, mm-hmm. and that is something we all have to be prepared for. And that is something I have learned in my 30s, is like, don't expect things to be the same, but be prepared for when things do change. Like, that's why people have emergency, like, I know we don't, like, in our communities, but people have emergency plans, and they have emergency kits. It's not saying like we're gonna have an emergency tomorrow, but you just never know. Mm-hmm. And when you do, which we see all the time in the news, places that, there's a disaster strikes, if you're not prepared, what are you gonna do? And the only thing that's certain in life is knowing that life is uncertain. Things will happen. Yeah. So just being prepared for those things, and we're not taught to do that. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. Is we're not taught to prepare for the unexpected, even though life is all about facing the unexpected.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you deal with feelings of comparison when you see peers hitting milestones you thought you'd reach?
It depends on what the milestones is. You know, I know like we keep coming back to marriage, but I feel like everyone has some things that they're hitting, and this is not me to be like, oh, it depends on first it depends on what age you are, you know, where you are in your life. Like if you're in your 20s and you're comparing yourself to your peers, that's going to look different than when you are in your 30s and you're comparing in your 40s and things like that. So for me, I compared myself to my peers, like, you know, in my 20s and early 30s, but I don't compare myself to my peers right now. And I don't know if that's kind of fair because I feel like, you know, when you come out of these different stages in your life, it's hard to like remember those feelings you used to feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because you're like, I left that behind. But I know it was a lesson, a lot of lessons learned of like comparing myself to my peers as far as where they were, whether it was with their career or their degrees. You know, I wish I had done that, or I wish I was, you know, there right now in my life. But then I also think, like, for example, let's use a degree, for example. You know, we have this, you know, this big push, like you need to get, you know, this degree and that degree, and you're going to be, you know, a prominent community member or a prominent person if you have this degree, etc. And for a while, I was feeling that pressure of like, oh my gosh, should I just go back? Should I go back to school? Should I get this and that? And then I sat with myself one time and I just said, if I do pursue this degree, what am I going to do with it? You know, like this is my career, and where I'm going in my life with my career. Do I need this degree for it? You know, I work with people that have higher degrees with me, but we're doing the same job and making the same money. You know,
Yeah.
like, so for me, I really had to sit with that for a while because for a few years, I was just like, maybe I need to go back. I need to go back, just so that I could have this title, you know? And so I feel like this year I've come to that realization of like, oh, I don't need it. Like, I just don't need it. So why am I going to put myself through that financial hardship and, you know, time just for the title? And so for me, that was one of the things that I was comparing myself with others. And then, you know, I don't know for you, like, you know, I know like a lot of people want to move into the marriage thing, and I don't dismiss that. I really don't. But I just feel like there is so much to life than
Hmm.
that, you know, for me, especially with everything that I've been through and had and accomplished. And, you know, I live the life um, I wanted. Like, you know, like it might not have been the life I envisioned for myself in my 20s, but I am happy with the life that I'm living in right now. So it is kind of like, I feel like it is being ungrateful if I just say, but if I just had this one other thing, um, and sometimes I just feel like, do I really want it? You know, like I'm really enjoying. I'm enjoying this. Like I
Yeah.
want to have this for as long as I. And I know that's kind of selfish sometimes, but I'm okay. Like, you know, being selfish until Allah gives me something else. You know, I'm okay just enjoying this. What about you? What do you find yourself comparing with your peers?
Um, for me, I would say, like, when I was in college, I didn't think I'm right now. I'm like, what, 9 years post college, and I didn't envision my life to look like how it does today. You know, I feel like when you're in college, you think you're gonna be like, you're gonna graduate and everything's gonna go smooth sailing.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get your career, and then that's all I thought about. I never thought about after that. I never really thought about marriage since I wasn't pressured. But I did think about success because I feel like my whole life, I was like, there was more pressure about me getting good grades, graduating, stuff like that. So I've always wanted success and a certain lifestyle, like nice house, stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Um, Now I know, like, when I think of my success, I know it's going to take some time. So I'm okay with building it. I haven't given up on my dreams yet. Well, I haven't given up on my dreams. But when it comes to like marriage, I always knew I didn't want to be married in my 20s because I just felt like there's some inner things I need to work on before I even try to be a parent. Now that I've worked through some things, I'm like, I would like to share this version of me with like another person. And I did a lot of things that I wanted to do, like traveling and like things with my family. And
This
then
podcast, your poetry, I feel like you're underplaying your accomplishments and your current success. You're doing things a lot of people your age have not done because they're only focused on one thing, you know?
Mhm.
So for you, success might have turned out to be different, but you are successful in doing a lot of things. You wear a lot of many hats. Why do you not give yourself credit for that?
I want my finances to match it.
Right, but what gives you more joy though?
I want both, to be honest.
That's fine. You're working towards that second
Mhm.
goal, but right now you're doing something you actually enjoy, right?
Yes.
And you have done other things that you have enjoyed.
Yes.
That is different from the norm.
That's
Yeah,
something
yeah,
I'm working on too, like
yeah.
clapping for more of my accomplishments. And yeah, that's one thing I'm not like that part of my life doesn't stress me out, but more about like what I want in the future.
But you're not enjoying, like, that's the thing. The part of your life that is not stressing you out is the part of your life you need to be enjoying. Like, are you even enjoying it? You know, like, are you even taking time to just sit on that and be like, yes, I'm good right now? And then continue to have your other, because life is all about evolving and changing and wanting different things.
Mhm.
It's never like, it should never be like, I want what I want and I want it all to happen right now. That's not how life works. Things happen in stages,
Mhm.
and then you enjoy every stage. Like, this happened, this is where I am now, I'm going to enjoy it. I know I want this, but
Mhm.
I'm going to keep working on it, but I'm going to enjoy every milestone, you know? And I feel like you're not doing that right now.
Okay, I guess I need to do that more than enjoy what I do have in the moment. But yeah, yeah, that's still something I'm working through. But have you ever felt shame or guilt about your timeline, and how do you process that?
I have, yeah, I mean, I think I've said it before, like, you know, I feel um, like the degree thing, like I feel guilty not, you know, going back to school sooner or things like that. But right now, I don't feel shame. I don't feel, I feel like shame is such a um, suppressing word. Like,
Mhm.
it's just oppressive word. I don't know if you can, like, it just makes you, it hinders you from like moving forward in life. So I don't really feel um, a lot of shame per se. Um, and guilty for what? I don't know. Like, what do I feel guilty for? Like, for um, I've always just done things I felt good about, like I felt right about, that aligns with my values and my purpose in life.
Mhm.
So it's not like I've ever like pursued something that I didn't feel right about. And alhamdulillah, I've just been so, and that's the thing. Everyone has their tests, right? There are certain areas that Allah tests you with. Like, this life is not meant to be a test-free life.
Mhm.
And so, but He gives you something that He gives you one thing and He doesn't give you another thing, right? But that's for me has been like kind of my thought process lately, is that, you know, I have so much, like, I'm not even joking when I say, like, I have so much to be grateful for, and I'm
Yes.
happy with so many things that I have. And Allah has given me some things that I wanted like right away. Sometimes I might find it like, oh, this is impossible, but it happens because Allah is maybe testing me in this, but He wants to give me everything else that I'm asking for, you know? So I just feel so grateful that I don't struggle with so many things. Yes, I still have to put effort. I still have to work. Maybe some things don't turn out the way you planned, but then He gives you something else, you know, to kind of take the burden away from the other thing that you're not.
Mhm.
So for me, it's just like, okay, maybe I didn't get this the way I wanted, but I'm really happy with this, you know, like, so that's kind of been it's been that trade off of like, you know. When I was younger, I will say yes. When I was in my 20s, there's been a lot of shame and guilt about a lot of things, but not so much, especially after 35, not so much
Yeah.
like that.
What surprises or unexpected blessings came from your life not going as planned?
Like changing my degree, like that has really taken me in a different path that I've never envisioned for myself. And I, at some points, I really had a hard time navigating because I was saying to myself, no, 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 this is not me. This is not, this is not who I am. I can't do this. I can't do that. I had a life coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a big believer in investing in yourself, especially after my 30s, because sometimes you need someone else from the outside to tell you your reality. Yeah,
I agree.
because we a lot of times we are our worst, critics. Everybody knows that. Now I'm working with individuals with disability, but when I got into that field, I got a job with the states, and I thought, oh, I'm going to just be doing this until I retire. Mm-hmm. And then a few years into that, I discovered something else that is needed. And then I was like, oh no, I can't do this. This is not what I do. And so my life coach has really helped me come out of that denial and that fear. So she made me realize, like, this is why Allah has pivoted my career field, is so that I could be doing this now.
Yes.
Like I just never pictured it, but then I'm like, that is maybe why I all of a sudden, mm-hmm. Dropped my whole life goal and changed into this, didn't know what was going to come out of it. Maybe this was the reason, so so that was a really big surprise for me, to be honest. And now I'm just like, bring in all the surprises, because I've never thought I would be like, a businesswoman. Like, mm-hmm. I just never, like, I would tell my coach, like, no, that's not me. That's not what I do. And I try to like work around that. And she's like, no, this is what you're doing, a business. Call it whatever you want, but you're, mm-hmm. running a business. And I was like, oh, okay, like, I don't know how to do that. She's like, you'll learn.
Yes.
Yeah, just start and you'll learn. And
it's like sometimes our own goals for ourselves can be limiting ourselves.
Yeah, very, very limiting, because you still have in the back of your mind, like, how things are expected to be, right? You feel like your personality is going to be, who you are today is who you're going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And that's not always the case. And it shouldn't be the case, because that is very limiting yourself and your abilities too. And so, yes, maybe your core values and your beliefs might, that those foundations will still be there, but like even that could evolve, mm-hmm. Into a better version. And so that's, for me, it's like, okay, I overcame this, and I can do this now. And you learn, everything in life is learning, and you just learn. Everyone learns. So, mm-hmm. yeah, that was like, for me, my biggest surprise. And then after that, it's like, now I expect that I'm going to end up doing things I never thought I was going to do. And I embrace those things now instead of like being afraid of it.
I like that. If you could talk to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself in regards to planning for the future?
I don't even know if oh my God. I think this, like, reading this question kind of made me emotional earlier, because I did the Foundational Womanhood, which you're
are in. Yeah,
that is another, amazing program. If I could talk to my younger self, oh my God, my younger self was Miss, I want to be perfect. I want to be, I want to please everyone. I want to be the peacemaker. I want everyone to be happy with me. I want to do this because it's going to make this person happy. Oh, I don't want to disappoint so and so. That was my younger version. Like, oh, I'm afraid to do this, so I'm just not going to do it. And it was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear. And even though, like, At the time, I thought I was smart. I knew I thought I knew what I wanted, and I was making some poor decisions. I was making some terrible decisions. Maybe like if in my 20s, yes, those things I regret are making those really poor decisions. Um, and like if I could talk to my younger self, I would tell her to another cliche like stop worrying about what people think. Stop living your life for other people. And I know this is so cliche, but you have no idea how much that holds you back from living your life. And so when I took foundational womanhood a few years ago, that was one of the things we had to do. It's just going back and writing about our life leading up to this point. And one of the sessions that I wrote really made me upset. Like it made me upset with myself because I was protecting. I had a lot of guards and up when I was younger because I had people like do me wrong. I had people betray me. I had friends that, weren't really friends. They were foes. And so it was like, I've never dealt with those, and all I did was like put my guards up. So therefore, I'm never going to let anybody in. I'm never going to be vulnerable with anybody. I'm smart. I can, it was like not realizing, like at that time, it was holding me back from a lot of things. So for me, my younger self, I would say, not only stop pleasing other people, but start putting boundaries and put your guard down. Vulnerability is what moves you forward to a better life. And at the time, it was scary. It was scary for me. And I remember, like, a long time ago, a friend of mine said to me, it's I don't really know you. Like, I had a hard time making girlfriends. It was really like after high school, I didn't really have like a best friend as a girl. I had friends, I had girlfriends, but there was never like anybody who was like my best friend I could like confide in, and because I didn't confide in people, like I didn't tell people my deepest darkest secrets. So it was like because I've had friends betray, so I remember a time I was still, I think, in my 20s, but this girl was just like, I feel like I don't even know you, even though we hang out, because you're not a vulnerable person. And that I didn't realize at the time, like, really hinders you from making connections with people. And so when I did that program, it was just letting go of um, that guard that you've put up and telling your younger self to stop protecting you because you don't need that protection anymore. Like you will be okay. Like my coach taught me, like no matter what, there was a lot of fear holding me back from doing the things I wanted to do. Even like with marriage, honestly, for a long time, I was afraid and I was self-sabotaging. Let's be honest. I'll be honest here because I'm just talking about vulnerability right now. But I was, I was self-sabotaging a lot because I was afraid, like if this worked out, I'm afraid of what might happen because of what I've seen. So that really made it hard for me to do a lot of things, to experience life. So when I found out that me protecting myself was actually stopping me from living life, I was really upset. I was really upset and I was crying, and it took me like days to get over that emotion, because I was just like I wasn't living life. I was moving through the emotions, but I wasn't living life. And so then what happened? And post-pandemic, I think the pandemic changed a lot of people. Yeah, I think that's when my life took a really drastic turn. The second drastic turn in my life was during the pandemic. When my dad passed away is when I hit rock bottom, like as people say, like because everyone has their different milestones. For me, that was my rock bottom, and so it was really really hard because I realized that I was um, living for something that wasn't really helping me because life could end at any moment. And because his death was like so sudden, it was just like you didn't know what to do. So that really that hit me really hard, and I just realized like life can end at any moment. Like, what am I doing? Like, how am I living my life? I'm so busy like just satisfying everyone else. I got angry. I felt like, people didn't really care to know who I am and all that stuff. So I went through that emotion and I came out of it. I'm like, no, I'm going to live my life. So my younger self, if I could change that sooner, I really would.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing I feel like I would change in my 20s. It's telling like to live your life and let go of those fears. Just do it, because you never know what's going to be on the other side. I learned that late, when we went to Turkey. I was like, I'm just gonna do whatever I'm afraid of doing. Like,
Yeah.
we're gonna go. What did we do? A hot air balloon. We're
Hot
gonna
air
do it.
balloon,
We're gonna,
paragliding.
yeah. I was like, I'm just gonna do it. Like, if I
Mm-hmm.
die, if I fall, if I fall to my death, then at least I know how it feels. Like, I
Yeah.
honestly was going into these things like with that mindset, because I'm just like, I want to see what's on the other side now. Like, I want to see what's on the other side of that fear, which
Mm-hmm.
I've never done when I was in my 20s. It was just like stopping me because I didn't want to. I didn't want to know. But yeah, yeah. Letting go of control, letting go of fear, and putting up boundaries, and being more vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
to
When does
someone.
this is something that I'm thinking about was like, when does the inner child or younger child actually protect you? Does it really protect you, or is it just hindering you your whole life?
Like, it's hindering you from living your life, but at the time you feel like you're protecting yourself because you won't get hurt, right? Like, if you don't face this thing, then you won't get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's like how you're protecting yourself. If I'm not vulnerable, I won't get hurt.
Yeah. Can I ask you about boundaries? You said you wish you put like more of your boundaries up and your guard down. What does that look like?
um for me, boundaries is just letting people know what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. Like, sometimes people will enter your space, make you feel a certain way, but you let them. And then now you're mad, you're upset after they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, I wish I did this, or I wish I said that, or that to me is saying, I'm not, like, at that moment when you're faced with something, a lot of times boundaries are around people, right? For example, someone could be like, hey, can you, um, I need you to do me a favor, for example. And you automatically get this feeling of like, oh, I have to do this favor for this person because if I don't, they're going to get mad at me. Okay, that's something you're telling yourself, right? And it might be true, like they might, because they got so used to you always saying yes to whatever they ask for. But boundaries to me, it's like, hey, I'd like to help you, but either I can't do it right now, or this is not something I'm able to do, and I need you to just understand that and be okay with that. Not
Mm-hmm.
having boundaries is saying, okay, I'll do it even though you don't want to do it and you hate it and you're thinking of a million excuses. And so to me, it's just making sure that you're clear with people of what's okay with you and what's not okay with you. And if they don't understand that, um, then you keep your distance from that person. Now I know like it's not always going to be the same easy, and your boundary with everyone is going to be different. So if it's like someone you come across once in a while, they're not really in your life, it's much easier, to keep those boundaries. But then when you have a family member, that's always there, it's going to be a little bit harder and it's going to look a little bit different. So if your family member is saying like, I need you to do me a favor, and if you don't, I'm just going to be mad at you, then you're like, you know what, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I don't have the capacity to do this right now, but I really would appreciate it for you to understand
Mm-hmm.
so that, it doesn't affect our relationship. But if it doesn't, then, um, I'm still going to be in your life. You're still going to be in my life. This is just the one thing we don't agree on. And I think that's one of the things like we have grown up is just always having that, being agreeable with everything and everyone. And sometimes even within your family is okay, like if you're not agreeing.
Do you think delays are actually redirections? And can you share an example from your journey?
Yeah, I think so, because sometimes I ask myself, if things went according to plan, would I be doing this thing? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And you never, like, I for me, I want to learn a lesson as to why I didn't get something or something is delayed at every stage, like, so I'm like, if I had gotten this at this age, like, would I have been able to do this that I'm doing right now? So I think, yes, it's a redirection. And it has its own blessings that come with it. Maybe if it wasn't, I feel like if it wasn't delayed and I got into it, maybe I would have probably done so bad at that thing because I wasn't ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I definitely think, I believe, um, delays are a redirection, or just getting you ready for it too, like getting
Mm-hmm.
you ready for something. Um,
Like building your capacity.
yeah, building your capacity to be able to handle that thing.
I started painting these days, and then I'm having so much like epiphanies while I'm painting.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I hate the process, but I love the end product. But I have to go through the process in order
To
to
get
get
to
to
the
that end, like, product, you know? And while I'm going through the process, actually, like, enjoying it and then not trying to distract myself with, oh, what should I watch while I paint? What should I listen to while I paint? It's like, no, just enjoy like the creating part, so that you can actually enjoy the product that you know. And it just makes me think about like trying to get your dream body. Yeah, that might be your goal, but you have to also enjoy the process too of exercising and stuff like that, or just other things in life.
Yeah, I think another thing, like, is very really important, and I have also learned that in my late 30s, is enjoying the process. Because have you ever seen where, like, you do something and you work so hard and you put so much effort, and then the end result, even if it's like a success, you don't enjoy it as much as the actual process? Have you ever felt that? Because I have. Because when you actually get it, it's like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. Like, because you put so much energy and time into it that honestly, like, the result is like as not as enjoyable as you thought. Like, I've
I think
experienced
I have
that.
the opposite problem.
And I think that is also what sets us up for disappointment a lot of times, is when we focus on the results. Because even, like, in our faith, we believe that the result is not in our hands. The result is in Allah's hands. Our job is to put in the effort and the work. And there is a reason for that, because a lot of life coaches and, psychologists, people will tell you right now, like, enjoy the process, because they know the results might not come the way you
Hmm.
want it, or it might not work out. And we know that if you didn't enjoy the process, you're going to be really heartbroken, and you're going to, be depressed and all of that. But if you did enjoy the process, then you're like, okay, at least I got something out of it. There's a wisdom to that. And I know it's like hard to enjoy the process, but honestly, that's how I try to live right now. It's like, okay, this is really painful. I put, like, for example, like, my partner and I, we worked really hard on this grant. Like, we were, working really late, working, after, up really late for me. It's late. And we're just like, you know and then when we submit it, it's like, oh, now I don't really, like, I don't even I don't even care what the results is anymore, because I just, so I think it's rewarding. I feel like, like, it just shows your capacity, like what you're capable of doing.
Hmm.
And the process is what teaches you, not the results. It's the process. In short, that long, the process is what teaches you whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Not the results. And the results is not in your hands.
And what dreams are you carrying into the next decade of your life? It's almost your birthday this February.
Yeah. Oh my God. What dream am I? I think there are some things that I still wish, would happen. So I will still carry the dream of, marriage and having kids, and I want to live abroad, which is another thing I never ever wanted to do when I was younger. Like I was really fearful of living abroad, and now I'm like, what do I have to do to go to leave?
Yeah.
So I have the dream of doing that, inshallah. Getting that up sea like full on, making that a full time, inshallah. So that is my dream that I'm carrying it, and then just continuing to learn, these different ways of living life and enjoying your life, and being okay with things not going according to plan, because that's, like I said, that's really something like I've been working on this year, is like just I have this thing on my phone that says, I don't know how this will happen, but Allah will make it happen. And so that's kind of my motto right now. I don't know how, but Allah will. And so whatever it is that I want to do, I just, go after it. And then whatever direction that Allah wants to take me, I just move with that. Because I found, when I did the solo trip, which was another really like a scary thing for me to do, but I did it. And what I found was that, like, at first I had a lot of plans, of what I wanted to do and how I wanted things to work out. I was feeling disappointed certain times because I'm like, oh, I wanted to do this, but it didn't happen. And I wanted this and it didn't happen. And I found myself like just feeling like, oh, why am I doing this? And then when I let things go, the best time I had was when I was uncertain of how something was going to go, and it turned out to be a lot more enjoyable than I thought. Like my happiest moment in my trip was just things happening unexpectedly. It made me so happy. I was just like, I would come back and I'm like, I had the most joyous day because I didn't plan any of it, and it just worked out so well. I'm just going to do this again. I'm going to go out and I'm going to see where it takes me. And it was just been like, I came back much more, much happier, and I hope like more growth in my mindset of how I expect, how to embrace the unexpected. And that's kind of the phase I am in right now. I was listening to this little clip with Taraj behind saying, I don't know how relevant this was, but she was just saying, like, when you're younger, like they were asking her something, and then she's like, I really don't care about what anybody thinks. And then she was like, in your 30s, your 40s, you still do a little bit. She's like in her 50s now, but she's like, nah, I really don't. And I feel like that's the progression you face through life. You find that you care less and less and less about something that's not important. And you really mean it too. Like, that's the thing. Like, you really mean it.
Yeah. I love Taraji and Tracy Ellis Ross, because they're like two big examples
of women that are not living the life that everyone expects them to be, but they're still successful, right? And I feel like I hope the next generation really picks up on that too. Like, it's okay to not move on everyone else's timeline, to move on your own timeline as long as you're happy. Like, we live in a different time, in a different world. Things look different. Aging doesn't look like it used to, when we're in our, 20s and teens, we think 30 is so old. Yeah. Really. You think it's so old, and 40s, forget about it. And now it's like, wait, I feel like my life is just starting. Yeah. You see like the younger people getting older, and you're just like, well, wait, I don't feel like I'm getting older. Do you feel that way? Like,
I feel like one of my favorite things I could have done in my adult life is surrounding myself with people of all ages and not just my peers. Because it really gives you a perspective on time, you know.
Yeah.
And even like when I graduated college, my first job was I did home care, and then one of my clients was 70 years old, and then my youngest client was 13.
Mm-hmm.
So just to see that difference in ages, it let me know of where I am in my life, and seeing kind of like the end of life
Mm-hmm.
during the beginning of my adult life, it let me know that I'm not late. Even now, I still feel that way. The lady I work for, she was 70 years old. I still have 40 more years left till I'm 70. You know what I mean? And just seeing how, even at 70, she still got up every morning. She would like blow dry her hair, put on lipstick, dress up. She's not going nowhere. She's just at home. She's still showing up for life every day, you know? And I'm happy that was my first job because it really put things into perspective for me. And I don't feel like I'm late or behind.
Yeah, I have this similar experience where when I was, right off a high school too, like a job that I had, there was this older man. He was like in his 90s,
Yeah.
and he has so much energy, and he's like literally a car one time, like, it was inside the garage, the
Mm-hmm.
car rental, and it hit him, and he literally like went up the hood, and he just jumped back out, and I was like, it's possible for you to be feel very youthful at such
Mm-hmm.
an older age where people expect you to be just sitting around and not a lot of energy. So I think there's some truth to that. There's definitely, you need more rest the more older you get, but that doesn't mean like you can't really do things that you want. And
Mm-hmm.
the older you get, also like the more freedom you have, and so you feel like, whatever was restricting you when you were younger is not restricting you when you're older, so you're
Mm-hmm.
able to live your life better. So yeah, I definitely, age is no longer, something to be feared. It looks so different now, and so but yeah, so that's why for me, like, getting older doesn't really scare me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful to reach another age, but also I'm enjoying myself even more and more as I get older.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the scariest thing is giving up on life while you still have so much life, you
Life
know?
to live,
Being
right?
stagnant, never growing, never changing anything about yourself, never discovering new hobbies or skills. That's scarier than getting older.
But that, I think that happens because if you still have this mentality of like life is supposed to look a certain way and it doesn't, and so then now that makes you feel like, okay, what is the point?
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when you still carry um, that feeling of like, if it doesn't go this way, then
Mm-hmm.
it's not worth it. So, but you realize when you start moving, like accepting, like that life is going to take you in different directions, that's when you enjoy it more and you look forward to it. Like, I can't wait to see what the next decade brings, to be honest,
Yes.
because that it's been so surprising so far. So
Mm-hmm.
now I'm not afraid of
I'm
it. Now
excited for
I'm just
you.
like, I'm excited for it. Yeah.
Yes. What's one way your faith or spirituality has deepened in your 30s?
I think my faith journey started in my mid to late 30s, actually, and so mid no not mid mid to late 20s. That is when I became more practicing. And honestly, if I wasn't, I don't even want to know kind of how I would be feeling, because my faith is what has really carried me forward, and got me through all of these, expectations or on things happening um, differently. Yeah, the trust, putting your trust in Allah more, like the tawakkul. Like, people talk about tawakkul a lot, and I feel like we don't give tawakkul, we don't embrace it fully. Like, we just say it, and I feel like we pay it lip service.
Mm-hmm.
But my trust in Allah has really been, it's been tested, but like it's one thing that continues to grow, because in order for you to live a life that didn't turn out the way you planned, you have to have that trust in Allah. Like, you have to have that trust that whatever plan Allah has for you, you will be satisfied with it. Like you will be happy with it. You know how we say, like, when we're praying istikhara, it's like we're asking Allah, like, to give us this thing if it's good for us, and if it's not good for us, give us something better, you know. And so that is you putting your trust in Allah that whatever the outcome is, you will be satisfied with it. And so for me, that is one thing that has really, I'm not saying hasn't wavered. I'm not saying I haven't, like, really been weak on it or anything, but it's what keeps me forward.
Mm-hmm.
It pushes me forward, because when I get to that state of, like, oh, that feeling of sadness or whatever emotion that comes up, at the end of the day, what brings me out of it is that, that belief of, like, okay, Ya Allah, I know I'm asking for this, and I know I really, really want this, but I also know that if you don't give it to me, there you will give me something that I will be happy with. You will give me, whether it's better or not, you will give me what I'm going to be happy and content with.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that for me, like, the building that trust, it's been one of the things that really has deepened my faith. Um,
Mm-hmm. I see a lot of videos online about like the importance of like tahajjud and du'as and istighfar
mhm.
and saying like subhanallah, alhamdulillah, and to get what you want. Do you feel like you do those things?
Yeah, those are, dhikr, which means, like, just remembering Allah often throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's saying your tasbih, your istighfars, like whatever, way that you are able to memorize, like, to remember Allah, saying your morning and evening adhkars. But I also feel like people sometimes misunderstand, and I'm not a scholar, I'm not, like, I'm not I know we say that a lot, but, like, I'm not even, like, yes, we're all students of knowledge, but sometimes people, I see those videos, like, if
Mm-hmm.
you only do this is what you have to do to get this. And I feel like that those things are setting people up for disappointment, because when they don't get it, they're like, well, I've done this and it hasn't. Because I saw one post one time, someone was like, I really want to get married and I'm so depressed about it. And I pray, like, we never get to that stage where we're just constantly depressed about it. But
Mm-hmm.
and she was just saying, she was telling people, like, I'm so depressed, I'm this, and she, like, don't tell me to do this, don't tell me to do that, like you were saying, don't tell me to pray tahajjud, don't tell me, because I do those things and it's still not happening. And it's like, you we we are misconstruing the these these advices, which I'm not saying people shouldn't give, but I really, like, try not to say, if I only do this, then Allah will open this door for me or that door for me. I will do this because I want to be closer to Allah, and I want to worship Allah better, and I want to remember Allah better, and I hope through this that Allah gives me success through whatever I'm asking for. But if it doesn't happen, then I know that, like, I think we have to shift our mentality of, like, why we're doing these things. But so for me, those kind of posts that are like, this is what you need to do in order to this to happen or that to happen, I feel like it removes people's idea of, like, um, who Allah is and what Allah is capable of, and, like, and that Allah just needs you to say these things in order. Allah will give you these things whether you say it or not. Like, that's the thing. Like, there are people that have something that sometimes we look and they're like, well, I don't think they deserve it. Like, you have non-Muslims that have what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't get it because they were, doing dhikr and you remember Allah. They got it because that is who Allah is. He will give who He wants, and He withholds from who He wants. And a most something really powerful I heard also is, like, just because Allah gives you something you want doesn't mean that He's pleased with you, and just because He withholds something from you doesn't mean that He's displeased with you. So for me, I feel like these things can be misleading sometimes, and it could make a person even fall into more despair because they're saying, "Oh, I do this every day, and nothing is happening." And then you'll hear stories where people are like, "Oh, I've done this and this has happened for me." And it's like, that's great because Allah wants you to have those things, and He also maybe not giving it to someone else because He wants you to keep calling Him, right? Like, so I don't think we should just limit our expectations of Allah, and I feel like that limits it. And may Allah forgive me if I say anything that is not pleasing, but like that's just how I take those things, is when I see those posts that say, if you do this, then your dua about this will happen, and it's like, do it because you want to be closer to Allah, and knowing that if He doesn't give it to you, that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong or you're not doing it right. It just means that, maybe Allah loves you calling out to Him, that He knows that if He gives you this thing, that maybe you'll stop calling out to Him, and He wants you to get closer to Him so that He can reward you for this, remembrance that you're doing every day of Allah. And I feel like that is what, because I do it sometimes. Like I do it. Like if I see something that says increase your istighfar, so then Allah, I will increase my istighfars. I will do it, but I also know in my mind, like, this doesn't mean that this thing is gonna fall in my lap tomorrow. Like I do it because now is another thing I'm adding to my remembrance of Allah, to my dhikr. It's just another thing I'm adding to it. It's not because now I expect Allah to do this for you. Allah doesn't owe you anything. He will give you what you need based on when you need it, not when we expect it. So that's for me. That's my opinion of these posts. These kind of things that people say, do this, do that.
And it's almost arrogant to even believe that, like, you can, like you said, when life doesn't go according to your plans,
you can demand it.
Who said you're living according? Who said you're in charge of your plans?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you're not in charge of anything. You're not even in charge of your own breath. So how can you think you can write out your whole life and then it go according to your plans? You're not the creator or the giver of your life. And I feel like sometimes, like, those, I know that's not the goal of those videos, but we can almost have a transactional relationship with God.
Exactly.
Just because we want something from Him, but that's not even the purpose of life.
Like, I'll do this, Allah, if, I will do this only if you give me this, like that. When we make dua, like, oh Allah, if, like, I don't make duas like that, where I'm like, oh Allah, if you do this, then I'm going to do it. Because now you're making an oath, to Allah, and you have to live up to that oath. So why are you putting yourself in situations that you might not deliver because of our human capabilities, and then you're asking Allah, like, as if He only needs you to do this in order to, like, no, you're limiting who Allah is and His capabilities based on our human capacity, and our mentality. And so I don't do du'as like that, where I'm like, I say, like, Ya Allah, I know you can give this to me, so give it to me. That for me is better than being like, I'm gonna do this. But one thing I do is, when I do get something that I want, I give charity as one of the ways that I'm thankful for Allah for giving me this. I give to charity. Like, that is, one of the habits that I have. So for me, it's not like, oh Allah, if you give me this, I'm gonna. No, I don't. I'm out of gratitude, because we can never thank Allah enough for what He gives us. So when I get something really big that I really wanted, I like to give, because Allah gives and you give, like that for me that's kind of my way of, like, it's not transactional, but it's just one of my ways of just being grateful for giving me this. But yeah, that's, which is unfortunately a misunderstanding and that's what you're gonna learn in Visionaire. Like, your du'as to Allah is not transactional,
I think we need to also change our perception of God and not view Him as like the relationships we have with other humans.
Exactly.
And like if you learn about Him better, then that's going to make you change how you think about your own life.
That is so true because one thing I was reflecting on a while back was like, like you were saying, just going back to what you were saying earlier about like, Allah is the creator. And I was just like, just that thought of like, the end of the day, Allah created me for a purpose, and I'm going to live that purpose whether I like it or not. Like He's gonna put me through this life the reason why He designed me or created me to live this life. So I belong to Him, and so my job is to appreciate and to work through whether that is a test, because I know some people like go through have really extreme tests that we don't understand, we never want to face, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, it's like Allah created you for this. This is your purpose in life. There's nothing you could have done differently. So for me, it's just that, yes, we have some autonomy, but at the end of the day, Allah put you here for a reason. And once your purpose in life is done, then you go back. Yeah. And so and I'm not saying like you're a puppet and I think that's what people misunderstand. It's like, no, like He gives us emotions, He gives us, all these, the autonomy to know right from wrong and to choose right from wrong. But what I'm saying is like, if something takes you in a different direction than you expected, then know that is what Allah has written for you. So now let's enjoy it, let's discover that, let's live that, to the fullest extent possible. So instead of saying this is not what I wanted, therefore I'm just going to be miserable, like what do you accomplish at the end of the day if you live like that? So
how do you navigate the relationship between qadr and free will?
I don't think I don't feel qualified at all to answer that, because the free will thing is such a complicated what is that word?
What?
Complicated. It's very complicated concept, free will. But I did take a course, like I did take a class on it, and I think Sheikh Yasir Khadi has lectures about that. Like if people can look up, qadar and understanding that qadar and free will. They have classes about that too. It's a very complicated concept. Like we were talking about earlier, that is, to me, is the journey, not the result. For me, qadar is the result of that, the process, and our job is to go through that process. So put in the effort. That is kind of tied to your free will, and the end result is what qadar is. Does that make sense?
I like that.
Yeah. To me, that's how, because I know from what I've learned, like it could really jumble your mind when you try to understand, because there's a lot of people that are like, well, if Allah has destined this for me, then why am I even doing this? If I do this, then Allah has... No, not necessarily. Angels don't have free will, so they do what they're told to do, but we are giving a free will in a way that, that is tied, I feel like, to our qadr. So you are taught what's right and what's wrong. Just like when Allah created Adam, He said, don't eat from this tree. Adam chose to eat from the tree. So like, that. And his qadr was to always be brought down to earth. His qadr, his eating from the tree didn't cause him to come down. It was his qadr to always come down to the earth, and that was the eating from the tree was just a means for that. But yeah, it is a complicated thing, but I don't think that's really an excuse for us, because you're choosing what you want to do in your life. And so just think of that, like you do have the ability to choose. So whatever you choose, yeah, that end result is going to be that.
Has not getting what you wanted ever saved you from something you didn't need?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like so many times. Um, I'll go back to my 20, not to just be like so detailed, but there was something that I really, really thought I wanted, but at the same time, I was feeling very hesitant about it because, I wasn't 100% sure on it, but I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is how it's supposed to be, this is how it's supposed to go. And at the last moment, I kind of pulled out and I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore, even though I thought I wanted it. And then later, down the line, years later, I always feel grateful like that thing didn't happen. There's so many examples, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest, because a lot of times we think we want something, and then later on, you're just like, oh, I'm glad I
Yeah.
didn't get that thing because if I had gotten it, I don't think I would like
Mm-hmm.
this would have happened now. Yeah.
I feel like anytime I'm going through something that I don't want, I always imagine like my future self, and then think. I try to think from like the future and then move back, like, oh, this might benefit me in the future because I'm gaining this and this and that. Like being my brother's caregiver now. Like the
Mm.
way it happened, it almost happened at the perfect time because that's when his other caregivers retired. So now that I get to do it, I get to build a bond with my brother that I
Mm.
never had.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not going to always have this opportunity. I know I'm not going to always live at home. So I know, like, in this moment, my future self will be happy
Yeah.
that I'm doing this now, even though it's hard, you know? So I like to think about things from my future self's perspective for
That's
what's
really
happening right
good.
now.
That's really good because then that stops you from doing things that are not going to benefit you later, right? So
Hmm.
if you are thinking about your future self, that is the big picture. Then you're like, is this going to help me later on? And that really, I feel like that is a really good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know I'm
I
going to
like that.
regret never having taken care or building a bond with my brother just because the nurses were always there doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that I can do it now before I miss out on that opportunity.
I like that. And now you see why a lot removed the other job from your life
Yeah.
now.
It needed to be removed.
Yeah.
Now I see it, but in the moment I couldn't see how it was like negatively affecting me. But now I see it. So that's how I like to think about things that don't when things don't go according to my plans. I like to look at how things are right now. And then one of my favorite things I like to do is go back. I have a lot of journals. Yesterday I just found
Please
one.
burn my journals if I ever die. When I die, I should burn mine. Okay.
Yesterday I was looking through my you know the bed you gave me how it has the
Yeah.
drawers. I was looking through it, and then I found a journal. I started it in 2018, but I just had one. I had two entries in there. It was like during Ramadan time. I was talking about my goals, stuff like that. And then it's crazy to see that my inner voice never changed. Like even though I got like that was 7 years ago, 2018. Even though I got older, my inner voice and never changed, and I still sound like who I was that time, and I still want the same things from life. So,
Is that a good thing or?
for me, it's a good thing because it lets me know what I really want. It's still the same from that time. So seeking to like still achieve it means I didn't give up on myself. So that's
Okay.
why I like reading old journals. Like I don't view it as, oh my god, I didn't accomplish this thing. It's like I view it as I'm still pursuing this thing, which means I haven't given up.
When I look back, I don't look back at journals
Hmm.
often, but I know like there are times when I would look back and I would just say, I can't believe I thought this way.
Yeah.
I had moments like that.
Hmm.
And I think that's what I would recommend too is like people keep journals. I don't know a lot of people don't like journals and because they don't I think you and I we're similar in the way like we like to express our emotions and For me, like, for us, journaling is a more protective way to be able to express our emotions. And so that has helped us a lot. But yeah, I think journaling is, really, really helps you write down your feelings so that you can move forward. Because if you don't, then that is always going to keep resurfacing. So that's what I say. Like, when I go back and read old journals, I'm like, I can't believe I used to think this way, or I used to feel this way. But then, like, because there's moments like when you're in it, it's like really intense, right? And you're just like pouring your heart out, and you feel like you can never come out of this feeling. And then, years later, you look and you're like, oh, I don't even feel that anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I can't believe. So it helps really well. And it helps to see like also how far you've come in life, what you're doing, and honestly, like, not to downplay anything, but I would just say, like, knowing what I know now, in my 30s, in my late 30s, I would really like encourage the young girls to not have a narrow view of life. Pursue what you are pursuing right now, but like, don't limit yourself by saying like, by this time I want to be here, by this time I want to be here, by this time I want to be here. Like, just live through milestones. So right now you might be in school, just focus on that and enjoy that and give your energy and time to that. And then, after you finish school, like, just, whatever comes next in that life, focus on that and give, and whatever Allah brings into your life, like, just be open to it. I think that's one of the things I would tell myself and my younger self is like, be open to what Allah brings into your life and not overthink, because I know overthinking is a big problem for us. Not overthink, and that is something like I've started doing, like, after 35, was like, I'm just not going to overthink this, I'm just going to do it, and then I'm going to see what happens. Because when we overthink, the more doubts we have, the less likely we are able to do what we want to do. And then the less doubt we like, closing the gap. That's how I learned. Close the gap between doubt and action. So as soon as that doubt creeps in, take that action right away. Because the longer you sit on that doubt, the harder it's going to be for you to do that. So just do it. Like, not to, but Naki was right with that. Like, just do it. Just do it, honestly. As long as it's not something dangerous, obviously. But like, if it's just an emotional, like an internal emotional thing, your fear, your emotions can only be so heightened for a certain period of time. Like, our bodies are like, cannot sustain a certain emotion, like a heightened emotion, for a long period of time. Like, after a certain time, you start to calm down. So the sooner you put yourself, like, there's this exposure therapy. One of those things like people do is, when you have a fear of something, like, you just keep exposing yourself to that, and then eventually you start to calm down and not be so afraid of it anymore. That is life. Like, when your heart rate is racing, it cannot stay in that for a long time. So you either you step away from it, or, which means I'm not going to do it, or if you go through it, you're eventually going to calm down. So whatever it is that you fear, whether it's public speaking, whether it's, following that dream you wanted to do, whether it's, taking that solo trip you wanted to do, whatever it is, just do it. And that is an advice I give to myself all the time. It's like, every time that fear creeps in, I just tell myself, okay, if I really want to do this thing, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it afraid. I want to see what's on the other side.
Yes.
So that, I would say, that's why, like, right now with my nieces and nephews, like, I really want them to experience things they're afraid of. And I try not to say, don't do this, like, because I know, like, this is something that is instilled in us when we're younger. And that is how I'm so fearful. is because I had adults in my life telling me, don't do this, don't do that, instilling that fear in me. And so I try not to do that with the youngers. Like if they want to jump off a do it and get hurt, it's fine, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like just I really try like not to tell them not to do something even if I'm afraid for it. Like my niece driving like but I'm just like, this is how they get over their fear, and that's how I wish I was raised. But yeah, so like honestly, I know it's easier said than done, but always just think, if you want to see what's on the other side, you have to go through that bridge. My next skydiving has never been on my bucket list. It's on my bucket list.
Hey.
Let's just say that, like never. I'm like, why do I need this in my life? I'm fine. I can live. I can survive.
It's that Chicago trip.
No, it's
that thing
actually
you went on.
no. It was since we went to Turkey. Since we went, because Turkey, when we went to Turkey, my whole purpose during that trip was to do everything I was afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I feel like trips are very spiritual.
They are, but at that time, I was like, I was recovering, like I was going through like my grief and my anger of like not doing the things I wanted to do when I was younger. So when I went on that trip was a test for me to be like, I'm not going to be afraid anymore. So how do I get over my fears? I'm going to do the things that I normally wouldn't do. I would be afraid of.
I remember that hot air balloon.
Yeah, and it was the most calming things, like even like, I don't know if you did the paragliding.
I didn't. That was too scary for me.
Okay, so I did it. I mean, it was scary. I was shaking in the boat, but then as soon as we went up, it was like the most calming thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. That's
the
when
anticipation that gets you.
Yeah, it's the anticipation. Exactly. That is what it is. It's during like that anticipation that makes us so afraid than the actual act itself. Because you realize, even when you're like, so that's when I decided I could do skydiving. It's when we did the 5 years ago or something. It's still on my list because I want to do it in somewhere that's really scenic.
Yes.
Because I want it to be worth it. So
like Dubai.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like when you find like I was gonna say, like when you actually do the action, it's not as fearful as when you were thinking about it. Because think of it, for example, like if you speak up in public, in a room full of people, if you're the type that's really nervous and your heart starts racing, and have you ever tried to, like if you actually start speaking, you find that your voice will start cracking at the beginning and then it will eventually like smooth out. You ever realize? Yeah, that's how everything is.
And your confidence even starts going up.
Exactly. And so now you gotta, even if you got nothing to say, sometimes I'm like, I have nothing to say really that important, but I just wanna do it just so I could, get over that fear, So so that's when you start practicing, and then the more you practice, the better you get at that thing, and then you move on to the next thing. And fear is just, it's a normal part of our emotions. We shouldn't fear it. But it just means that you have something to overcome.
How can you tell the difference between like when something is your feelings and you should feel it, like force yourself to kind of overcome the feeling, versus when it's your intuition telling you to redirect? Like, how can you tell the difference? I think that's something I struggle with. Like,
do you want to use an example? I don't.
For example, say that you're talking to someone and then you get a feeling, but how do I know? Like, say you feel scared of like getting to the next level. How do I know this is not me self-sabotaging compared to something saying, oh, you should redirect and not talk to the person anymore?
So if you use that example, for me, because I've done that a lot, like the self-sabotaging. So fear, like I said, is normal. You're going to fear something even if it feels right or even if it should be the right thing. You're still going to fear it. But I think your intuition, like if your gut feeling is telling you something, that means you have seen actions from this person that made you second guess yourself about being with this person. That's how I feel. Like you have examples, like you've seen actions that you're not okay with, but you're trying to like, oh, brush it off, which I think a lot of people do. And I've seen some people do with relationships. So for me, I'm kind of like, if I see one thing, I'm gone. So I think that is for me, that's how I differentiate it. It's like your intuition telling you something is not right. It means there's something that this person has done, has shown you, that makes you feel like, oh, this is not right. But if this person has not shown you something or has done something that is like, let's say, a red flag, everything seems to like you're okay with it. And I mean like you're really okay with it. Like you're not compromising yourself. You're not like, saying, I'm not okay with this, but I can live. I don't believe, like, if you're not okay with something, I don't think you can live with it because it's going to get worse. Because so if you're not seeing those things, but you're just like, oh my God, I've never been in this situation before, and I don't know how to be in this situation, I'm afraid. That's different. Now you're just like with anything else, like a new job, a new house. Like when we moved to our old house, not this one, I was really fearful. Like I had some unexplained fear. I don't know where it was coming from. I thought the roof was gonna collapse. Like this unrealistic, fears. So for me, that's how I would differentiate it. It's like, is this just a fear because it's new to me and I don't know, so I'm afraid of the unknown? Or is it like I've seen something with this person that I'm not okay with it, and now my intuition is saying something is off about this person. Like, whether, whatever it is, like that to me is how I would differentiate it. So you follow your intuitions, your gut feeling. It's not fear.
It's like a evidence-based.
Yeah. Something is telling you something is not right. That is different from this career I really want and it's right for me, but I'm really afraid, like I don't know if I'm going to be good. Like my first job, my job at DDA, I thought I was going to be fired the first year because I'm like, I don't have no idea if I'm going to learn the ropes here. It seems so complicated, but then a year comes, I'm really good at my job, like that kind of. So should I have quit it at that time because I believe that I'm just not gonna learn this? No. So I think that's the difference. It's like follow your gut feeling, but don't follow your like brain fear.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a lot to say in life, but I think just coming back to the purpose of this podcast, we touched on a lot of things. This was like grieving the life. That was basically what set this off, was grieving the life you thought you were going to have. And what we're basically saying is like, it's okay for you to be sad about things not turning the way you wanted it to, but at the same time, enjoy the life that you have and move forward with whatever life Allah has designed you for, and know that everyone's timeline is different. Like people say this a lot, but it's true. Everyone's timeline is different. Everyone's journey in life is different. If we were all the same, how fun would this be? Like, what lesson would I learn if everyone had the same thing that I had? Like, if everyone had kids, if everyone was married, if everyone had, like, this education or degree, like, what would be the purpose of life? What would I learn? Like, if the people I was surrounded with were the same, how would I ever evolve in life? How would I ever become resilient? How would I ever challenge myself? And I think that's the purpose of life, is for us to see these different trajectories in life so that we can learn and grow and evolve and welcome those things. So yeah, that for me is pretty much sums up with what the purpose of this podcast was supposed to be.
Yes. I'm happy that we were able to make it happen. And although like I thought I was interviewing you, I actually learned so much because I'm like going through it right now, in real time. So I'm excited to see what life is going to look like in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and to enjoy the enjoy the
It's gonna
process
be
and to
so much
celebrate the
better.
accomplishments.
I will tell you guys, your 30s, I feel like is the best, and I'm excited, what the next decade brings. But I actually enjoyed so much, especially the second half.
Hmm.
Like I'm excited, and I feel like 30 dragged on for so long. Like I just feel like so much has happened,
Yes.
and I want to now just enjoy the the fruits of
Hmm.
that.
I also love getting to know this version of you,
Yeah.
and I hope that.
A lot of people say that, because that the old version of me, like I said, it's not to say like I don't have the same personality. I mean, I'm still the kind person. I'm still a shy person. I'm still an introvert. But the old version of me is more of like a people pleaser, the one that, wasn't really open and didn't really make connections,
Hmm.
and I'm able to like do that now. And I think that's what people appreciate, because they feel like they actually getting to know me
Hmm.
instead of like the surface,
Hmm.
you know.
Getting your pink back.
Yes,
You know what that
yes,
means?
no. That tells you how old I am. I don't know, what does that mean?
It's basically like
Getting your pink back?
flamingos when they give birth, they
Yeah.
lose all their pink, and
Mm,
then because they're like taking care of their babies or
mm.
whatever, and then once they stop, like the babies get older, then all their pink starts returning back to them
Is that
again.
a new Gen Z slang?
I just see it on YouTube and TikTok.
Yeah.
People trying to get their pink back.
Wow. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I mean, no one has ever taken that away from me, but I feel like I'm just growing into myself, really, more than anything.
Yes. Well,
Thank you
thanks.
for having me. This has
Thanks
been
for
pleasant.
joining. Thanks for being down to do it, even though it was kind of last minute. It happened at the perfect time. That was the purpose of this whole podcast, just trusting the right time of when things will happen. Um, Thanks for the viewers and everyone who's tuning in. If your life doesn't look like what you planned, you're not alone, and it doesn't mean you're behind. It just means your story is unfolding in its own divine timing, and to trust it. If you would like to be a guest on Unmet Amana, you can message me on Gmail at unmetamana@gmail or on Instagram. And yeah, assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.
Holding, holding on to longing, holding on to nostalgia, holding on to home, holding on to grief, holding on to the memories, holding on